Darkness Dwells is brought to you by Crystal Lake Publishing. Go to crystallakepub.com and go check out what they've got going. They've been publishing since 2012, and they are only getting bigger. They have published the likes of Ramsey Campbell, Mercedes Yardley, and Clive Barker, amongst many more. We're also supported by audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/darknessdwells and pick out any book that you want when you sign up for a free trial membership. And that trial lasts for 1 month and you get any book you want for free. So go and check that out. Welcome to the Darkness Dwells podcast, episode 116. I am Jason White.
I'm Michael Schutz.
How you doing, Michael?
I'm good. It is definitely summer here in Yuba City, with all the complaints that I usually have. Hey, I saw Midsummer.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I liked it a lot, and I should probably do a little write-up and put a new, what do you call them? A blog post.
A blog post,
but, yeah, lots of good stuff to watch recently. There was Midsummer. I'm all caught up with Legion. I watched the first 2 seasons in anticipation of season 3. Yeah, Stranger Things came out.
Yeah.
It's been pretty good.
I'm sort of behind, honestly, on things. Like season 3 of Stranger Things, like you just mentioned, it came out last weekend, I think. Yeah, it was around there anyway. Most people have seen the whole thing. I've seen the first episode. But things just keep coming up, and we can't get to it. We were supposed to watch like 2 or 3 episodes last night, but that was the night my son decided that he couldn't fall asleep until 1 a.m., so that didn't happen.
Yeah, you're a lot busier than... Certainly more busy than I am.
Well, you know, there's a lot of busy people who are like, who said that they watched the whole thing still, and I'm just like, ugh, I'm on episode 1. Although I did watch I binged watched a show that totally captivated me. This was like earlier on in I think actually probably more like mid-June when I watched this, and it's Chernobyl. I was like totally captivated by that.
Wow, wasn't that amazing?
It was. It's so scary. It's very much a horror movie, but based in reality.
I liked the first 3 episodes. I thought that, and that might be because I was able to binge the first 3, and then I had to wait for the other 2 to come out, and I waited until they were both out to watch, so there was a break. But, like, the first 3 were really, really captivating. And, I mean, like, episode 3 in the hospital, that was like a monster movie. That was really disgusting and disturbing. That made me feel funny.
Yeah, I got, like, obsessed with the whole Chernobyl incident, and it was kind of crazy. So you saw Midsummer. I want to hear about this movie a bit more. A lot of people are comparing it to Hereditary, and I think mostly because of the intensity and the feelings of loss. How would you compare it to Hereditary? Is it as good or better?
Well, and the people that hate this movie, which is a smaller contingent, but they're vocal, and I understand their point of view, because I've been, like, both you and I, we love going to movies knowing as little as possible.
Yeah.
Which was especially easy to do with Midsummer because I've been insanely busy polishing up my novel. So, for one thing, I did not know that it was the same director as Hereditary. And I thought it was a Swedish film. I went to it expecting 2.5 hours of subtitles, and I thought it said this on IMDb that it was a drama and a horror. Because I had it in my mind that it was going to be drama and horror. So I went in with a different set of expectations than some people. So I loved it. It's I don't know. It's definitely by the same director as Hereditary. You know,
does it have
feels
the same feel?
Same.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it does have the same feel. But what I will say about Midsommar is that I think it is a drama that's made for horror lovers.
Interesting.
More than a horror movie is what I say. Just like, like Blade Runner, and I said this about Blade Runner 2049 or whatever. Villeneuve's follow-up was. Sorry,
I'm pretty sure it's 49.
That was a sci-fi drama. Like the Blade Runner movies are dramas for science fiction lovers. Yeah. Really, right? I mean, if you go into Blade Runner thinking that you're going to see a Star Wars movie, you're going to be disappointed.
Exactly.
You're not going to like it. If you go to Midsommar and you think you're going to watch a horror movie, if you expect Hereditary or you expect The Witch, I don't think you're going to be happy. That it's a drama for people that love horror. Yeah. Is how I would describe it. And if you go to it with that in mind, I think you'll love it.
You hit a good point there, because the way these movies are marketed, they go on saying it's the scariest movie of the year and all that crap, and people are expecting jump scares and kill scenes, and what they get is a slow burn. That's I think the people who are complaining about it are probably more fans of those not scarier, but more fast-paced films. And not even that, but I mean, when you're told it's going to be that, yes,
you're setting people up. Yeah, it's like when I read Universal Harvester. I was told that this was such a great horror novel. It's not a horror novel. It's just not. So I hated it. Because they told me it was something else. Yeah.
You know what? Going into a movie with those expectations, or a book, really do ruin the experience for you, because you're set.
Yes.
You're all set to experience one thing, and you get something else, and it pisses you off initially, and that really does affect the rest of the experience.
So I don't blame the people that are angry about it, and I know that some people are saying, "Well, it's just because you don't get it." Well, no, they were set up to think it was something else.
Exactly.
That's not their fault.
I think, honestly, like, marketing is such a lying type of business, because they have to sell this thing, right? And when you get a slow burn movie like this, that's not gonna, in this today's world of, everything happening with beats, and, it has to have action, and in order to sell, they have to make it look like it's going to be that. And so...
Yes.
So it's difficult to really sell it for what it is.
Yep. And that ruins it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see any sort of preview, but I can imagine what it's made to look like.
Yeah.
And it's not that.
I haven't seen any previews either. The only thing I have seen is the picture of the girl with the weird face.
Yep.
That picture's everywhere, and it's like, it's ingrained in me that is like, that's like the model for... It's the mascot, maybe, of the movie, and that's... I know a little bit of what it's about, and I know it's a slow burn, but that's all I want to know. I can't wait to see it, though. I'm probably going to have to wait until DVD, because getting to the theater is sometimes a struggle for me. If the theater was just like, in town here where I live, it would be a different story. But I have to go all the way to a different town to watch movies at the theater. So it's always a bit of a struggle finding the time to actually do that, especially for something that's like 2.5 hours.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to recommend that, if at all, that you really try to see it in a theater. I have a feeling that Midsommar is a movie like Lost in Translation, where a lot of time has passed now, but that first year, everybody that saw Lost in Translation at the theater loved it. And everybody that saw it for the first time when it came out on DVD did not like it.
Oh, yeah?
There's some movies that being in a dark, focused room with a huge screen, that immersive experience makes that movie resonate more.
Much more, yeah.
And I think if you rent Midsummer and sit on your couch for 2 hours and 20 minutes, you might like it, but you're not going to.
There's too many
if you're
distractions.
Really interested in seeing, make it to the theater. I know it's a huge time commitment and struggle, but it pays off. There's very intense sound in it. There's a lot of deep registers that make it really ominous through.
Very
If
cool.
at all possible, try to make it to that immersive experience. You will like it more. I'll guarantee.
Okay, I'll give it my best shot.
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer it's going to be in theaters for too, so I guess I gotta hurry on that.
Yeah, I mean, Keenan will love it. I mean, it's a perfect movie for a young person.
yeah, I'm sure he would love it.
He'll sit right through it.
Yeah, he'll be immersed, and he won't cry at all. All right, so this episode we have some interesting things going on with this episode. Tamara Thorne, she stopped by and we talked about quite a few things. It was a great conversation. And Michael and I, we watched a horror slasher film from 1981 called The Prowler.
Prowler.
And so we're going to take a quick break here, and when we return, we're going to be joined by Tamara, and we're going to discuss her newest book. And Michael holds the reins mostly on this conversation.
I do. You let me loose.
Yeah,
you let me out of my cage.
And then, we're going to talk about the Prowler, so stay tuned.
Welcome back. As promised, today we have a repeat guest, Tamara Thorne. Tamara Thorne's first novel was published in 1991, and since then she has written many more, including international bestsellers Haunted, Bad Things, Moonfall, Eternity, The Sorority, one of my favorites, Candle Bay. A lifelong lover of ghost stories, she is currently working on several collaborations with Alistair Cross, as well as a new solo novel. Welcome, Tamara Thorne.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are we all?
Oh, we're all good. The cat and I are under the air conditioner today, so we're set to go.
It's terrible out there.
It is. It's not even very bad in SoCal yet, but anything over 60, and I don't like it.
I hear you. Well, welcome back to the show. You have been pretty busy since we last spoke. I think it was last March. You were just releasing Darling Girls, I believe, with Alistair Cross. How have you been? What have you been up to? How did that go?
Oh, that goes well. Let's see. We've released another. I think we've released a Ravencrest since then. I don't know. We do our Ravencrest saga in episodes, serial novel style, until it's done before we put a new book out. So we're most of the way through the next one, which is the Ravencrest saga Exorcism, which was inspired one day when I told Alistair, I want to write a book with an evil baby crawling around on the ceiling. Yeah. And so we're having a good time with that. And
you sold me just like that. That's all I need.
Yeah. It does play into it. We just wrote that segment, in fact. And we have, let's see, a new solo that we're not talking titles yet because we aren't far enough along. And let's see, I'm doing a new series. Remember Sheriff Tully from Eternity? He was after Jack the Ripper. I took him out of the mountains, and now he's on a seacoast town called Fort Charles Fort, get it?
Oh.
And he's dealing with a serial killer and evidently some evil mermaids, but I'm not really sure yet because he hasn't caught anything. So that's what I'm up to.
And I follow your Facebook. Did you recently check out some haunted sites with Alistair? Or was I misreading that? You like to check out haunted things, right?
We do. The first time we ever met, we spent 5 nights in a haunted cabin and released a little short book on it. What happened there? It was a exploration, but yeah, we took a road trip. I think in April, and we just went up and down California, and yeah, haunted sites were involved. Alcatraz is supposed to be haunted, and we hung out in the jail cells. And fun stuff.
Did you ever check out the Queen Mary?
Oh, I've been there a number of times. That's a lot of fun.
It is.
It is. Since they put in the Halloween stuff, it's really hard to tell if anything's going on in that section of the ship. But I like just walking around, the self-guided tour on the whole ship itself, because if it's a real quiet day, you can kind of feel good vibes, really.
Yeah.
And have you been there?
I have, and absolutely nothing happened. But
yeah,
but I was too cheap to pay for the tour with all the good stuff, like the pool and everything.
That's funny. You didn't used to have to pay to go in that part. But I went on that tour once, and they had us go back in the dressing rooms and things like that. And that actually played into Ravencrest, describing the dressing rooms in this current book. So that was fun, because it had some odd feel to it.
Can I interject here just for 1 second?
Please.
I just want to state how funny I think it is that Michael is always on the search for something supernatural, and he's always disappointed.
I would do anything to actually experience something.
Well, the key is no expectations. I've done it a lot, but I never thought I was doing it. I would go places and just sort of sit and soak up the atmosphere, like the Queen Mary, just for my own writing. And I'd make up stories in my head. And then I started getting invited to go to speak at ghost things, because I write about ghosts so much. And then they started hanging out with a bunch of cops who go to places, because, they have guns, so it feels safer. And it's the live people that scare me.
Right.
But I've seen a number of things, but it's when you least expect it. Like, I've seen 2 apparitions, and I wouldn't say that if I hadn't had other people with me, because I would have assumed I'd just imagined it. Both of them. And it's usually, I've only been spooked a couple of times, and in all the places I've been, they're usually really sort of garden variety, and you don't even realize what's going on. Except it's an awful lot of fun.
Was there a catalyst for your love of hauntings?
I think I was born that way. I don't know. I just remember always wanting ghost stories, always telling ghost stories. My mom going along with me and, giggling and taking me to the graveyards that I wanted to go see. We thought the reading there was really interesting. And she and I would make up stories about, the names of the people and all that. And she'd tell me historical things. But I just liked ghosts. I was terrified of, people breaking into the house and things like that. But, man, I love the ghosts.
Do you have a favorite haunted spot, whether it's actually haunted or not?
Yeah, I do. It's the Sutro Bath ruins in San Francisco.
Oh.
By Cliff House, which the Cliff House restaurant. The Sutro Baths were in operation from the late 1800s, and I think they burned down in the early 70s. But my mom, I was a very late child, and my mom told me stories about swimming there. So, and there were like 7 pools. One was salt water. It was right on the beach, and they had huge tall glass ceilings. And that's what she'd tell me about, how it smelled, and it was sort of humid, and the echoey, watery sounds. And I was just riveted by this. So my friend and I went up there a few years ago and kind of butt skied down down to the ruins. You can go down there and you can still see the outlines of these fancy pools and things like that. It's very dangerous. It was great. But the thing was, it's pleasant. It feels happy.
Yeah.
And I would call that a haunt.
Definitely. And speaking of hauntings, your new novel, Brimstone, I've heard you call it, refer to it as The Shining meets Sunset Boulevard.
That's always been my log line, yeah. Kitty. Okay. Sorry, the cat was on my computer.
Can you tell us about Brimstone?
Well, what it is it's a coming-of-age story. I love coming-of-age horror, like It or Summer of Night, all those, and they're always boys. So I thought it'd be fun to do one with a girl. And this story is about an 11-year-old girl who ends up, her mother is a real POS. Her name's Cherry Devine, and she's a 8mm porn star. This is 1968. And she's starting to sag a bit, and she's not getting all the jobs she wants. So she picks up Holly and takes her to Arizona. And they go to a town called Brimstone, which is heavily based on a little copper mining town called Jerome, which is real. And there's a hotel there called the Jerome Grand. So they go to the Brimstone Grand. And the Jerome Grand is a former copper or mining company hospital, and they've kept it fairly intact that way with the original old elevator and the electricity on the outside of the walls and all that. It's fantastic, and it's supposed to be very haunted. And now we're going to have a cat fight. So they go there, and her grandmother, this is the Sunset Boulevard part, is Delilah Devine, and she was a legitimate actress in the 30s and 40s, and she's retired there. She's inherited this old place, and she lives in the penthouse, and the rest of it's a hotel. And basically, Cherry dumps Holly on her, and there is no love lost there, and that's a lot of fun. So Holly loves ghost stories. That's about all we have in common, aside from hating Barbie dolls and model horses, as means I gave her that too. That was so much fun. And she sees ghosts, and this is an inherited trait. And pretty soon she finds out not all ghosts are so fun, and she meets a lot of people, and including a perverted bellboy, and she gets in a lot of danger, and there's a lot of old cult activity. It seems her great-great-grandfather thought he really was better than Aleister Crowley for things like that. The ghosts pretty much take over the story. I really had fun with it.
And it's great to have a
coming-of-age
story that is a female character, too.
Yeah, it's different for horror. You don't normally see that. And I don't know why, but of course, I never liked little girls when I was one because they weren't any fun. They didn't want to hear about ghosts, and that's all I wanted to talk about. So they wanted to play with Barbie dolls, and I liked to behead them. So I was kind of different. So.
I'm currently reading it right now, and one thing I really enjoy about this book is how it takes me back to when I was a teenager reading horror books on the summer break. So I think this would be a perfect summer read for people for that alone. It really has that feel to it. It brings me back to reading, like Michael mentioned, The Shining, and it also reminds me of like John Saul and Dean Koontz.
Oh, thank you. It's just I write what I like to read, and I like reading all those things.
Yeah, me too. I used to read them all the time, and that's how I got into reading horror fiction myself. Was reading during the summer break, and sometimes while school was in too. But I would really pack it in the summer breaks, and that's who I would read.
Yeah, it was so exciting. I started on science fiction, and I found Ray Bradbury when I was maybe 7 or 8, and that was always my favorite but it was mostly science fiction. And then when I was 11, I was in the library and I found The Haunting of Hill House. And that was forever after. I was searching for more.
I was the same way with Ray Bradbury. I discovered The October Country pretty early on.
His best anthology. Or collection, I mean. Yeah.
And then, just like you, it was Haunting of Hill House I found right afterwards.
Did it scare you to death because you were so young? It didn't me.
The part of holding hands, when Eleanor was holding Theo's hand and it turned out that it wasn't, that scared me.
That was scary.
That's not my hand.
Yeah.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's still a highlight of my reading life.
Yeah. Otherwise, I don't really get scared with the written word that much, which is terrible to say as a horror writer, but yeah, I get creeped out and disturbed, and I like that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. There was one book that I had nightmares constantly while reading, and it was Communion by Whitley Strieber.
Oh, my goodness.
And you too?
I haven't read the book, but the movie with Christopher Walken, that scares the crap out of me.
I have
read that book, and it's insane.
Did it bother you?
It bothered me a bit, yeah.
I never believed it was real, but I believed he believed it in some way, and maybe that's what made it so scary. But I think the big thing was he kept saying, I don't know if this is true or not, but, and I would dream every night, and I knew other people were reading it, and they would give it up because of the nightmares, but I was kind of enjoying the nightmares.
Yeah.
That was the scariest thing I've ever read to this day.
It is really messed up, that's for sure.
It is.
It's almost like a hallucinatory nightmare. The whole once it gets going, it doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm. I think that might be exactly what it is. I've had those where I had to learn how to lucid dream to get rid of a repeating nightmare that was a dark man standing over the bed threatening to kill me, and I'd wake up screaming. It was humiliating because I don't scream. And I learned how to lucid dream, and I shot him, and he never came back again. But it went on for months and months. And
that's a goal of mine. I want to lucid dream. I don't know. I hear you can train yourself to do that. Yeah. Yeah,
you can learn how, and it's really handy.
I'll have to.
Yeah. There's a book called Lucid Dreaming that goes way back that I used, and it took about a month. But I remember telling myself, okay, tonight I want to talk to Stephen King.
Right.
And I wasn't published yet. Yeah. And so suddenly I was dreaming that Stephen King was trying to get me to sit in his lap, and I couldn't get that one straight. And so I stopped trying for that. But I learned how to fly in my dreams, and I could soar up and down, and that was so much fun because I'd never flown in dreams before. But that would be how I could tell I was lucid dreaming, was by flying. I didn't want to look at my hands like they usually tell you to, because that sounded scary.
And Brimstone is a standalone, is that right? That's not going to be, at least so far, it's planned as a standalone?
It's a standalone, and although Holly, as a 60-year-old woman, is actually one of the characters in a book that Alistair and I are working on, and she grew up to be a writer, and one of my friends who's another writer keeps saying I ought to write a few more books about her at different ages because she can see ghosts. Oh, I don't know, maybe I will. I think she lives in Fort Charles in my new series, but we'll see. I doubt she'll show up anytime soon. But yeah, I like standalones. I get bored. I know you need to write series, and so this new one I've set up, I can do just about anything I want with it, and that's why I'm doing it, because otherwise I'd fall asleep.
And of course, it's a solo project. But when you work on solo projects, do you turn to your collaborator, Alistair Cross, and does he read it and give you feedback? And
we work together every day, all day long in the cloud on Skype, and we work on our solos for a couple hours. We work on Ravencrest for a couple hours, and we work on our new collaboration, whatever it is, standalone, for a couple hours. And every day we both work, and then we both read to each other, and we use each other as sounding boards. And it's, the total trust is fantastic. You don't have to worry about, will this idea get away, because he's not going to talk and I'm not going to talk, and we write so much alike that it's very easy. And so, we're both fully aware of what the other is writing.
So you work together on Skype even when you're doing your solos?
Oh yeah. We use each other. We connect in the morning. It's our office. I'm extremely ADHD, and he is very good at focusing me. And he will, if I know that in an hour I'm going to have to read to him what I just wrote, I will actually get the writing done instead of go surfing. or
Yes.
spend the whole time researching. I love doing that too. And he tends to get too intense, and I make him laugh. I don't know what else I do for him, but I know I do that. So we take our breaks together. If we stop to put something on Facebook, we're probably doing it simultaneously, that kind of thing. And we turn on the camera when our cats are sitting on our heads and show each other. And it just makes it easy, because when I'm alone, I won't do my work. And he just brings me right back. He's my Ritalin.
What makes a story idea a Thorne and Cross novel versus a Tamara Thorne novel?
I don't know. At night we text constantly, and we have to turn our sound down at night because we both wake up and text story ideas in the middle of the night. And I think it's mostly, hey, what do you think of this? And one of us will say, that'd be a great collaboration, or you should write that. And that's pretty much what it is. Like, we have the same interests and likes and dislikes. He's working on vampires right now, which I'm not as crazy about. But then he isn't either. But he's having a good time. That didn't come out right at all. But his vampires are terrific. But he concentrates on personalities rather than sucking blood, so they're really good. But we send names back and forth. Hey, let's write about a girl named Lotta Vagina. And, oh yeah, we do things like that constantly. I think I stole that from Family Guy. I was watching that last night. But
in your work, you really have a talent for balance, and I said that about Candle Bay, that one mixed genres very fluidly. But in Brimstone, you really explored the whole gamut of human emotions. Does writing about horror and humanity and sorrow and love all together, does that come naturally? Or, is that all in the first draft? Or does that get layered in over several edits, each aspect?
I don't edit that much. I mean, there's a first draft, but then it just gets fixed up. I think with Brimstone, everything was intended to be there, although, like, Cherry Divine, I had a hard time kind of leaving her alone because I wanted to follow her and just write nonsense about her. It was so much fun. But I knew I was in this 11-year-old girl's head, and I had to really, I wanted to show what that was like, too. So pretty much everything I do is character-driven. Candle Bay was a little different because that was my editor saying, you can write The Forgotten, which he was afraid was science fiction. It wasn't, but he was afraid of that. It was about a haunted town. If you will give me a vampire novel first. So I just kind of, okay, and I started writing without really having much of a plot, except I watched The Godfather, and I thought, oh, that would be fun. Yeah. And so I didn't get as heavily into the characters and until Darling Girls, and then the characters became more important to me. when I revisited them. So yeah, it's all there to begin with, pretty much. The bellboy became a lot more, as secondary characters often do, became a lot more important than I expected, and a lot more twisted and strange. And
you have Postal Eddie Fortune in Brimstone as well.
Oh, right. Yeah, the universe exists everywhere. He's a 14-year-old boy that Holly thinks is kind of cute. And he first showed up in Candle Bay, as an old hippie, conspiracy talking DJ. And Alistair loved him, and so we've been putting him in his books, my books, everybody's books, and he's kind of a voice. But yeah, I love that, getting to see him as a 14-year-old.
Yeah.
His early influences. He gets his first experience in that. Ghostly, I don't know what his other experiences are.
And we talked, you mentioned briefly about the Jerome Grand. Have you been there? Did you research that before the book?
I've been there a number of times, both with my husband and my girlfriend, and we always stay in the most haunted room. And it's real well known as a haunted hotel now, but back when I first started going, probably 10 or 15 years ago, it wasn't well known. And I'd leave my husband upstairs in the room, and I'd go down and talk to the clerk half the night, and I'd come back up and he'd tell me, I thought you were back, and I was hearing all these footsteps and nobody was out there, and it was great because there wasn't anybody else on the floor. And then one time my girlfriend woke me up in the middle of the night because the bathroom door opened on its own, and I don't know that I believe that was supernatural, but it was really cool. and the whole town is just unbelievable to see. It's like my ideal vacation destination. It's weird.
Oh, I like weird.
Yeah, it really does hang off the mountain. It just hangs there, and it's strange. You'd love it.
The other day on Facebook, this is kind of out there, but the other day on Facebook, you asked for horror movie recommendations. I'm wondering, did you end up finding anything good? Did you watch any? Do you have any new favorites now?
Probably not, because I've seen them all. I really liked Hereditary for recent ones.
Yeah.
And that was good, wasn't it?
Oh, man, that was superb. That was crazy good.
It was. It was really scary. And even that first thing with the little girl and the bird. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a cat. Knocking things off. I liked Netflix's Hill House. I've only watched it once. I didn't watch the second episode after the first time, though, because it had cat horror, and I don't do that. But I think my favorite horror movies are still like the original Woman in Black, The Changeling with George C. Scott, The Shining, Kubrick's version, The Forgotten from, 1948, 45? Was that what it's called? Ray Milland and the brother and sister by the old house on the English coast. I think it's called it's not called The Forgotten. My cats are going out of their minds. They must be asleep. The Uninvited, that was it. I just like ghostly horror movies. I've never seen Saw or
Gone but Not
Texas
Forgotten.
Chainsaw. What was that?
Gone but Not Forgotten.
I don't think I've seen that. Or is that, did I misunderstand you? Is that a movie?
No, I just quickly looked up Ray Milland movies.
Oh, yeah, it's The Uninvited.
Oh, okay.
It's classic. It's not actually. I bet you anything, Steven Spielberg saw it because as a young person, when they show the ghost in there, it is very reminiscent of the ghost you later see on the stairs in Poltergeist.
Oh,
and it's one of the best early ghosts I've ever seen. She's actually spooky, and man, it's so poltergeisty. He must have had a little influence there, and boy, is it good influence. I like
Well,
that
great.
movie
Now I
too.
have that and Communion the novel. So I love doing these interviews and winding up with things to add to my to be watched and to be read list. So it's always
What should I read? Do you?
I still recommend Found for both the movie and Todd Rigney's novel, definitely.
What's the name again?
Found.
Found. Okay.
Found. Yes.
I'm writing it down. That's good stuff. I just read Kill Creek. That was really good.
Oh, I have that on my to be read pile.
Take that to the top. It's worth it.
Yeah, I've heard really good things. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about writers, so that makes it even more interesting.
Yeah, horror writers at that.
Yeah, you end up going, I wonder who's part of that person, and yeah, who knows? I'm not going to guess. Not out loud anyway.
Not for the record.
Not for the record. There's a lot of writers in those writers, but it's really scary. I was so pleased. I tore through it way too fast.
Well, as we get ready to wrap up, can you talk about any current and future projects that are coming along? Can you tease us?
Well, yeah, Ravencrest Exorcism it's my favorite Ravencrest novel so far. We'll be done with it before the end of the year. You can always go to Amazon and get the serial installments. I think we've put out 6, and we usually do 8 per book. And it's sort of, let's see, a log line might be, okay, it's flying right out of my head. The movie with F. Scott Fitzgerald, 1930s. Figure there's a whole lot of 1930s music. It's about a ghost who, now she's a ghost, but called the White Violet, who was a silent film star who was married to one of the owners of the mansion, and we drew freely on Hearst pool. Hearst has the indoor pool, the Roman pool. Well, we have a Greek pool, and it was built first. But it's really spooky, and it's probably my favorite one. We're doing solos. It's hard to talk about me without mentioning him. These will probably be spring books, the solos and the and our next collaboration, which is sort of a Frankensteinian type tale.
Oh,
but very different. There's a lot of sex in it.
So where can we buy Brimstone, and where can we find you on the internet?
Okay, I'm Twitter at Tamara Thorne, Facebook Tamara Thorne. We have our radio show, Thorne and Cross Haunted Nights Live. There's a Facebook page for that. We're on every Thursday. And let's see, my website is tamarathorne.com with an E. And I'm pretty easy to find. That's how you find me.
And you're a lot of fun too. So anybody out there,
Well, so
Tamara's great on social media. She's spooky and she's fun, which is the best combination.
Aw, well, so are you.
Oh. Jason, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, but thank you so much, Tamara, for coming on the show and talking with mostly Michael. I had a lot of fun listening and asking a couple questions.
Oh, well, thank you. I had tons of fun.
And,
Thank you so much.
As I said, I'm in the middle of Brimstone, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And so, yeah, I just wanted to put that in there, too.
Oh, I'm glad you like it. It seems to be doing pretty well. And I'm glad, because I sure had fun writing it.
That's good.
That shows.
There's nothing better than writing about ghosts. Yeah.
Well, we definitely want you to come back, and I'm pretty sure that we want the both of you, Thorne and Cross, to come on.
Sure, yeah.
And
cool.
yeah, we're gonna have to do that.
We're better together. Yeah. Okay, that would be great. We'd love to.
That would be great. We'll set something up.
Okay.
Thank you for coming on the show, and have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks, guys.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. Pain has a face. Allow me to show it to you. Gentlemen, I am pain.
I see dead people. Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
You know, it's arguable that Halloween started the whole slasher subgenre of horror. And this one started off pretty early as well. Halloween was 1979, and this movie is from 1981. And, you know, it sort of gave me some, it gave me some Halloween vibes and how it was a bit of a slow burn. But let me get to some of the information on the film before we discuss it. The synopsis is: an unknown killer clad in World War II U.S. Army fatigues stalks a small New Jersey town bent on reliving a 35-year-old double murder by focusing on a group of college kids holding an annual spring dance. Now, this movie was directed by Joseph Zito, and it was written by Glenn Leopold and Neil Barbera. And it stars Vicky Dawson, Christopher Goutman, Lawrence Tierney, and a few others. Honestly, there's maybe one or two faces I recognized, but most people didn't go on to do anything. I didn't realize
Lawrence Tierney was in it.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him then.
Tierney, he played the Major.
Oh.
You'd only see him like twice, I think. Maybe 3 times. So, as I was saying, this movie had a bit of a Halloween vibe to it. Only because of its slow burn sort of feel, but the kill scenes, oh my god, the kill scenes in this film. And it's important to mention also that, effects master Tom Savini worked on this film. And,
you can tell.
Yeah, you can tell. It's the kill scenes, like, the movie starts off as most slasher movies do with a kill scene. And it's a pretty brutal one with that pitchfork. and the blood that comes out of the bodies, it's just like, wow. Like, okay, so what was your first impression, Michael?
You know, my first impression was interesting that we picked this movie for this episode because it starts with the Queen Mary, and we talk with Tamara about the Queen Mary, which is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, because I've been on the Queen Mary.
Oh yeah,
that's my first thought.
Very cool.
That was my first thought. Oh, I got to tell you, I wasn't a very big fan of the Prowler. It really didn't engage me very much.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what to say about it, except it definitely is one of the first slasher movies that's out there. I liked the pitchfork thing and how that reminded me of all those years later with the Crazies. That must have been kind of an homage to the Prowler. But yeah, it's definitely a very early 80s slasher movie.
Yeah. Well, it has a slower.
Fun. That's like my one takeaway was that the kill scenes were fun.
Yeah, they certainly were. I think you watch this movie for the kill scenes, honestly. Well, you know what? You watch all slasher films for the kill scenes, though. Like, my biggest stipulation when you see Friday the 13th being played during Halloween on AMC is that they take out that pivotal moment when somebody gets killed. They edited that out. And that's that's the fucking reason why I'm there, people. You know, like,
the whole reason.
Yeah. I'm not there for the great storytelling, because, you know, let's face it, these movies aren't about the story or the characters, not really. I mean, some people do dig the characters, but I think that's one thing that was lacking in the Prowler, is the characters.
It really was.
Yeah.
When you look at Halloween, and actually when you look at the very first Friday the 13th, even though from all reports from Cunningham himself, Friday the 13th was a huge fluke, but those two movies really have very well developed stories and characters.
Yes.
And Prowler was really lacking that, as you said.
And Halloween that I mentioned, it had some really strong characters as well.
Yeah.
But this film, like, we do have some characters, but nobody really... Actually, that's not entirely true. Because there is, like, this weird struggle between two of the women. They're, like, roommates, or they at least live in the same dorm. And the one is, like, trying to steal the other's man. And she's very upfront about it. And that was, the biggest characterization I saw in this film.
That was about the funnest aspect, because that was like the truest aspect of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But true, you know, that felt like that's the part that grounded it in reality, you know.
Yeah. But, you know, the movie, it looks good, it's shot well, and it's directed well. The acting, I think they do what they can with their roles. I'm not going to blame the acting. I think the acting was fairly well. It's just the characters were rather bland. This movie is very strange for me because I had trouble watching it because it just didn't capture my imagination like other movies have of this same subgenre. I had trouble getting into it. The only time I really got into it was when the Prowler showed up. The rest of the stuff I wasn't really all that drawn into. Like you said, there's no stories. Basically, they're at that spring dance, and there's a bit of a story with the romance between the leading lady and the deputy guy there.
Didn't he look like Cillian Murphy?
Oh, he
I don't know
does.
if you had that thought? Yeah,
He
I had to
certainly
look it up.
does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, is Cillian Murphy like some sort of robot that they keep in a closet
Right,
somewhere and
because
bring him
it
out
is-
for some movies?
Like, it can't possibly be look that good now if he looked good then.
It was uncanny. I looked it up too. I was like, that can't be him because this guy's like 35 and you know,
Right?
Cillian Murphy didn't start making movies until like the early 2000s from what I know of, and he's got to be like in his 50s now. So the math isn't adding up, people. Maybe it's his dad or something. I don't know.
That would be funny.
I don't think it is though, because I like went looking into that too, but there is nothing. There was absolutely nothing. But yeah, he was fun to watch simply because of that. I was like, fuck, man. It's a 1981 version of the Sunshine Guy.
How the hell is this going?
But you know, the kill scenes really do make this film sparkle, so to speak. Every one of them is brutal and almost cold in a sense. How these people are just butchered by this Prowler. And the shower scene, I think that was a throwback to Psycho. They wanted to actually show the penetration, and it's pretty nasty. It actually, you know, my wife, she doesn't like horror movies, but she can watch 80s slasher films because, you know, they're not actually scary. And they're meant more for like a vicarious sort of fun, in a sense, right? But she cringed at that scene because it's just brutal. She had to look away. She was like, "Oh my god."
And it was sort of a sense because it was so early that the rules hadn't really been developed yet. So I found that kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, it was still finding its way. And I've heard of the Prowler before. I'm not sure if it's one of those official video nasties that the British government went crazy about. I
Probably.
think it is.
I
So
think it would have to be.
that sort of, it almost, I don't know, kind of a historical interest.
Yeah.
As far as the history of the horror movie, sort of thing.
Also, I was looking at the trivia, as I have been doing for these movies lately, and apparently, you know, the scene right before the shower scene, where the guy gets his sword through the head, they actually cut that part down in the movie, but I'm pretty sure what we saw was the uncut version, because it just went on and on.
Yeah, wait, that wasn't... They cut that down.
Yeah. But every kill scene does kind of linger, and it goes on.
They definitely glorify the violence.
They certainly do.
That's definitely the point. I mean, I have the sense that it was made very quickly. They seem to be kind of grasping at straws for how to disguise their killer. Like, ooh, what are we going to do this time? Like in My Bloody Valentine, it was a minor. And so here we have, like, just I don't know what kind of uniform was it. Just a World War II highly covered.
I don't know what's covering his face, though. I don't know what that is. Like, that was
they
not...
really lingered on the boot, didn't they? Every time they find
certainly.
it.
They really liked the World War II American uniform boot.
That boot.
All right, so what's your final thoughts on this and your rating?
Oh, I'm disappointed. I say 2 stars and find a different early slasher to watch.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think I liked it more than you. But still, I think it fell flat for me for certain reasons. Like I said, there was absolutely no story, and the characters were dull. And I've heard about this movie a lot too, but it's not one of the top runners of the slasher films, and I think this could be why. I think if you're a fan of the slasher genre, especially in the 80s, you need to see this film. But,
yes.
You might not enjoy it. You might enjoy it more than we did. I think it's just there, and it's a good film to watch if you want to see special effects done really well. And I'm going to give it 3 stars. I liked it, but it wasn't anything jaw-dropping or revolutionary. And it kind of got lost in history, too, and I think that's probably why.
I think the first thing first big groan was the first scene at the sheriff's office when the sheriff is briefing the deputy, and he basically says, yeah, a couple of kids were slaughtered really brutally on the 25th anniversary of the dance that we're going to have for the first time ever, and see, I'm going fishing.
Yep. I'm not sticking around for this shit. Yeah.
I trust you to handle this incredible emergency that we've never seen in 30 years. Bye. But that's a blatant setup.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little clue. That's a little clue right there as to what happens at the end.
Yeah.
It's not a really big surprise when you find out who the killer is.
No,
but
they kind of telegraph everything that's going to happen. They were trying to make a slasher movie.
Yeah. Now, I got some interesting trivia about this film.
Okay, that's going to be the best part.
Yeah. Tom Savini, he considers this to be his best work. Now, remember, I got these trivias, or these neat little facts, I say with quotation marks, because I got it from my IMDb, so it could be altered and not exactly accurate, but they're nonetheless very interesting. So, Tom Savini considers this to be his best work. And I don't, okay, he did really well on this, honestly. It really shines. The kill scenes, as I keep repeating, people are going to think that I'm just about the kill scenes. I'm not, but, I do enjoy that. And he did really well. But, he's done a lot of other stuff, too, that was really good. I'm thinking of, Day of the Dead and stuff like that,
Yeah, and just all of his work on the Friday the 13th series. It was good work, but it wasn't especially inventive.
Yeah.
And he did some really inventive stuff, like with the Kevin Bacon spear scene and Friday the 13th, whatever.
Yeah.
That was really innovative. Well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Tom Savini, he was brought in to do the special makeup effects on this one after he finished working on another slasher film, Maniac. And also, Savini did all of the Prowler kills, wearing the Prowler costume in each death scene. Savini in 1984 returned with director Joseph Zito to direct Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and helped Jason actor Ted White with the death scenes in that film. That's interesting because, first of all, there's two pieces of information there that really impresses me. The one, Joseph Zito went on to direct Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter, And this movie was actually, this is another trivia part, this film is the reason for Joseph Zito being selected to direct that movie in the first place. So this movie at least led on to some really great stuff.
Which Friday again?
Part 4, the final chapter.
Okay, yes, part 4 is the final chapter. Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
which is my
That's
favorite
pretty good.
one, honestly. That's my first horror movie ever.
Really? Mine was part 3.
Wow. Cool. And what was the other part that I really enjoyed about this fact thing? Oh yeah, actually it leads sort of into the next one. The Prowler himself was actually played by 3 different people. Now I'm going to spoil who, I think we already did spoil who the Prowler is in the movie, but it's going to be spoiled here for sure. So the Prowler was played by 3 different people. Assistant director Peter Guiliano stalked around and chased the victims throughout the film. Tom Savini wore the uniform and gloves to perform all the gory close-up shots of the kills because he actually knew how to perform the effects. And Farley Granger, he was in the climatic unmasking scene. Now, I'm not going to say what character he played just to be, I guess, cheeky.
Just cheeky.
Yeah. But, excuse me. But yeah, so he was the reveal when you take off that weird mask that I never remember. I don't remember seeing any World War II picture of somebody wearing a weird mask like that.
Not like a gas mask or anything.
Yeah, you know what? That would have been cool. A gas mask.
Yeah. Except remember, I did that whole blog post about gas mask horror.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's my Arnold Palmer gas mask horror. It's hard to say.
Gas mask horror. Yeah, you know what? I guess maybe when did My Bloody Valentine come out? Because didn't he wear a gas mask?
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe there's a possibility
it had to have
that came
been
out first.
just after the Prowler, but I should check out my IMDb.
Yeah.
Since you got.
Okay, so the cemetery scenes were shot in an actual cemetery on Halloween night of 1980. The open grave used in the film is an actual open grave in the cemetery that was awaiting a funeral. That's pretty interesting. A couple more here. Director Joseph Zito once told a guard at a movie theater where they were filming the movie that he was the director of the film. And to this, the guard responded, "You really did kill those people, right?"
Oh,
It's
God.
like, what? No. No, we're not real killers here.
These were such an innocent time.
Yeah. It's like, this isn't a snuff film. Jesus. Okay. And your security? All right. The house used for Major Catham's house was actually a museum. The furniture in the house was all antique, and the owners would only allow a skeleton crew to shoot inside the location. And that's interesting because they kept breaking into that house.
Yeah.
Thinking that there was a connection between the killer and the Major. All right. So that was The Prowler from 1981. I recommend it if you're a slasher film.
Which was the same year as My Bloody Valentine. They came out the same year.
Oh yeah, maybe they were in cahoots with each other and like, we can't use a gas mask because they're using a fucking gas mask. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess when you're trying to find a mask to that's another thing, you know, about this film that kind of bothered me is you have a World War II soldier and you couldn't come up with a more creative mask. I think it would have been more interesting, honestly, if there was something a little more creative in regards to the mask.
I think that's why they focused on the boots so much.
Maybe,
because they knew it.
The boots were the real mask.
You gotta... The boots! The real nightmare. Prowler 2.
Smell my boots, you'll die.
Oh, my boots! Ah! Ah! Smothers them with his boot.
You wouldn't need Tom Savini for that, I don't think. Unless their face melts or something. Alright, so we're going to take a quick break here, and when we return, we're going to close out the show.
Oh, say it ain't so.
Say it ain't so. Oh, You're going to have the smell my boot thing stuck in your head for a little while.
The tagline for the Prowler was, I lost it now, A four-pronged terror.
You know, I have to wonder why he used the pitchfork. Because, you know, it's not like American soldiers use that.
Yeah, that's incongruous with the World War II fatigues. It was just... It didn't have enough cohesiveness.
Yeah, that's true.
Because My Bloody Valentine, he used the pickaxe, right?
Yeah.
Because it was in the mine. He had the gas mask because he was in the mine, and made sense. Prowler didn't make any sense.
No. It actually, you're right, it didn't. He should have stuck with that little sword thing that he used to kill the one guy. Because that makes sense. It's like a bayonet, right?
Yep. Yeah, if you carried around his bayonet.
And you can definitely do some nasty kills with that thing.
They used bayonets in World War II? Probably. Still. Sure.
I think they did, yeah. I think it was a lot more rare than just, say, World War One, but...
Yeah.
I mean, I know they used them in Vietnam, so they probably did have them for World War II. I'm pretty sure they did, actually, yeah. They had them strapped to their boots. They didn't have pitchforks strapped to their boots.
No, they did not. No, they did not. And there aren't a lot of pitchforks hanging around the sheriff's station or the dance hall.
Yeah.
Either.
Maybe he was a farmer in like a earlier period of his life.
Didn't make no sense.
Don't make no sense. All right, so thanks everyone for listening, and
yes,
and if you want to reach out to us and tell us what you thought of the Prowler,
and prowl us,
yeah, you can definitely prowl us. We're easy to reach. We're everywhere on the internet. You can email us at darknessdwellspodcast@mail.com. You can find us on our website, which is wheredarknessdwells.com. We're on Facebook. We have a page that you can like and a group that you can participate in. And we're on Twitter. The handle for that is @darkdweller. I think I got them all. I can never tell. There's like 5 or 6 of them, and I'm always like...
we get the ones, right? You
Yeah.
always get those. Yeah.
And so thank you, Michael, for enduring this one. There's a reason. There's an evil reason why I chose this film. It's because over on BookTube, we're doing a read-along. We're reading Kill Rivers 1 and 2, which is an ode to 1980s slasher films. And the author is Cameron Robeek, so I highly recommend you guys go and check that out.
That's why you dragged me into this mess.
Yeah, but you know, there's a lot worse to come, Michael. All right, so thank you, Michael, and everyone else. And until next, smell a boot, and until next time.
Next time, smell my boot, stay dark, my friends.
And smell my boots.